How are you? Good to see you, Lauren.
You as well. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise. I've been really looking forward to your chat in particular because you have such an incredible story
Mm.
in terms of your awakening journey and such a deep awakening um, that I got to kind of hear firsthand from you. I'm excited for you to share it with the community and to just, you know, give everybody the color that I got to receive, if you're willing to share it. And
Yeah.
let people learn more about you. So I'm glad you're here.
Oh gosh. So where do I start? With my favorite color or the deepest trauma? It's like there's that balance, right?
I think they're one of the same these days. Um,
For sure.
but yeah, let's begin by uh, wherever you feel guided to kind of just open your heart here. And I'd like to just kind of focus this initial narrative on your story, kind of a bit about your background, as to, how you kind of progressed in this incarnation so far to where you are today. What you went through, what you experienced. I know you often refer to yourself as a shadow alchemist. Um, and so talk to us a bit about the depths of the shadow that you dove into and how you kind of rose out of that into the light.
Absolutely. So the words I kept hearing as you were speaking from my guides were to just share that it takes a warrior, right? It takes a warrior to look at their deepest and darkest and scariest parts of themselves to know that they have the power within themselves to transform it. It takes a warrior to know when to rest. It takes a warrior to know when to open your heart and put down your armor and accept your life journey for exactly how it's been. Those difficult moments, those traumatic moments, those ones that we used to wish would just go away. It takes a warrior to appreciate those moments and to learn to love them and accept yourself for exactly as you are today in this moment and every single of those difficult moments. So as I'm saying this, I'll just share some of my journey with you. Um, my spiritual awakening was very dramatic. Like, whew, it was dramatic. It started with me. I won't say started. It was a part where I literally threw two middle fingers up at the universe and just flipped it off. I gave it a big F you. I cursed out God and the universe for a good like 5-10 minutes because I was completely blaming the universe for my life. It was so difficult. And I was wondering, like, why the hell would you give me this life full of so much like hurt and torment? And like, is this some sick game? I was really just like at my wit's end as far as where I was. So to back up even farther, um, I had about 20 years of very traumatic experiences. From when I was 6 years old, so my core wounding was my grandmother passed away just like 5 days before my sixth birthday. I was very close to her. And then somewhere between, I don't know the exact date, but somewhere between my grandmother passing away and my birthday, I was raped by my uncle. And of course, like many of us, this kind of dives down under our layers and we forget about it, or we set up off a piece of our soul to help us cope, I could say, with that traumatic event. And then the next 20 years, I was not very kind to myself. It was, suicidal attempts, when most people are going through adolescence of like learning what their bodies are, like the sexuality and going through those hormonal changes that we do in middle school. That is when I had my realization, remembering of what happened to me as a little girl. So I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't know how to deal with all the emotional pain. So the only way I could have it make sense to me was I actually started to burn myself. I would inflict physical pain to replace the emotional pain because that's what made sense to me. Physical pain's supposed to hurt, right? Emotional pain didn't make any sense. And so then just that very difficult time in my life continued, and I put myself in so many situations to be re-hurt, to be re-victimized, to cope with the pain for it to make sense to me, from eating disorders to putting myself in some very unhealthy situations. And during that spiritual awakening that happened probably about 25 years later, so this affected me for such a long time, like many traumas do for us, I had this epiphany that one, life wasn't meant to be so hard. Life wasn't meant to be full of so much pain and misery and suffering. It's meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be just all of the above, right? It's meant to be human, where we feel the good and the bad. And during this awakening, I had to come to terms with, even though the very initial core wounding wasn't my fault, I was just a little girl. But a lot of the pieces afterwards, that was my fault. That was me inflicting more pain on myself. And so there's that piece of taking accountability for your actions and approaching with a really tenderness, the amount of self-love to accept that, yes, I hurt myself in those moments as a response to another hurt, but I'm going to still love myself through that. I'm still going to appreciate myself for doing the best I could that I knew how to in that moment, in that time. And as you continue awakening, as you continue learning about yourself, you start developing all these new tools of how to deepen your self-love and how to deepen your self-appreciation and how to reach in those aspects that you discarded because you didn't think they were good enough. You didn't think they were worthy of love. You didn't think they were worthy of anything. But you go in with tenderness and self-love deep into the psyche. I love doing this subconscious work. And you give it all the love, all of the tenderness and nurturing that you needed at that time to heal those wounds on a really, really deep level. It takes a warrior. It takes a warrior to admit that sometimes things are under our control, that we maybe choose the response that's not for our highest and best, but we can forgive ourselves and we can choose how to respond in that moment, and we can choose to keep going forward, knowing that our journey on this lifetime, on this planet, is not going to be easy. It's not going to make sense all the time, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to make sense. You just have to be there with yourself, do the best you can, and commit to dealing with our own shit, because everyone is going through something. Everyone, to a different extent, has their own karmic something or other that they're working through. And it's up to us to choose how we want to respond to ourselves, to our child self, to our adolescent self, to our adult self, and to others. Because I really, really believe that we heal ourselves to heal the world.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, so beautifully said. And it's poetic to listen to you speak about this, because you speak from the heart, and that's poetry. And just such an amazing testimony to the possibility of leaning into the shadow to transmute that suffering into peace. And that's the name of this awakening game that we're all playing here, as the process of coming home. So,
Yes.
if it's possible, Lauren, would you mind kind of sharing a bit more about what the actual practices are, or that you went through, as how to transmute the shadow into light, into peace? Because often I think people who are perhaps earlier on this journey, it's very hard to conceptualize what shadow work means, what it is to actually alchemize the shadow. And so can you just speak a bit to, what that actually looks like in practice, and what is really happening here energetically?
Yes, I love this question. Thank you for bringing it up. And first, I kind of want to, I guess, demystify the shadow. A lot of people think like the shadow and the darkness are one of the same, or that the shadow and darkness is something that's evil, or something that is meant to be like torn out of you. And I don't know, it kind of gives us so much, I see all the time in like on these other movies and things like that, that it's given such like an evil terminology, right? Like something to be feared, something to be afraid of. But really what the shadow is are just pieces of ourselves that we've discarded, pieces of ourselves that we feel are that we felt weren't good enough for some reason because we're trying to fit into society. We're trying to condition ourselves, or society's trying to condition us to be in a box, to be a certain way, to conform. And so we often dispose of certain pieces of ourselves. Usually those pieces are like what make us really unique and really special, because it's just only you have them. It's your big smile, or your silly laugh, or your sense of humor. It's these pieces that just make you freaking sparkle. But because we've learned, especially after experiencing a trauma, we're trying to fit in and make sense of our lives, that we throw them away. And so with shadow work, you just really dive into those pieces. So just for more, I guess, tactual explanation, my work, I obviously deal with a lot of people with trauma situations, and we develop a safe space together. So we'll come in and we'll say a non-denominational prayer, and just really open ourselves up to receiving. We limit any extra energy coming in, creating that safe container, and that co-creation of space, that orchestration between ourselves, each other, and our guides are trying to help us through these moments. And for the person coming in, it's actually quite simple. They just lay down, or they can sit up, whatever feels more comfortable for them. And we go into a trance state. And in this trance state, it's a really special place where your brainwaves start to slow down. You release any stress of the day. Those things just kind of fall away, allowing the pieces of your mind, the pieces in the background, to come forward. And those are the pieces of our psyche that are just waiting there for us to go get. They're just waiting there, hoping that we'll hear them, hoping that they'll be able to come forward. And we do it piece by piece, little bit by little bit, because we're trying to do it slowly and with a lot of intention behind it. Yeah. And it's really remarkable, some of the experiences that you can have when you slow down everything that's going around, all the extra chaos, all the extra noise, and tap into the inner healer that we all have within ourselves. And that's a really big piece of my work too, is allowing everyone to remember and showing them that they have their own inner healer. And it's awakening that through different activations and through slowing down and meditations and really simple practices to activate that beautiful piece, that innate piece, that ancient piece of ourselves to just come forward, that's just been waiting there so patiently.
Yeah, that's so much to unpack there, and there's so much substance to what you're speaking to, and I can really feel the depths of where you go with your clients simply from the way in which you speak to your process and how this works. So it's just beautiful to me, and I know to so many others who are on this journey and authentic in their interest to unlearn, to heal, to come back into oneness with the divine. And I love what you said too about shadow work often being something that is feared, and the world conditions that fear of shadow work and facing the shadow into us, because of course that's what the Matrix wants, right? It wants to keep us away from doing this work so that we aren't exposed to the truth, so we don't see what's real. And so the world, movies, media, conditioning, it's all going to position us as to avoid facing the shadow because it's scary, dangerous, and keeping us stuck in the illusions. That's the interest of society, the Matrix. Not to go too much into that rabbit hole.
Right, it's a whole other tangent. We go hours on that topic.
But worth noting, right? Because it's so important as part of this process of demystifying the mystical that we come to befriend the shadow, seeing it as the vehicle of liberation, not enslavement, right?
Yeah, such powerful words.
So let's take a deeper dive into the specifics of your offerings. I'd love to just kind of hear a bit more about what specifically you offer and how you kind of package this to the world in terms of your services and and the intent behind each service as well?
Yeah, so this is always like, it's such a simple question, but I'm always like, where do I even start? Because I do so much, right? There's so many different unique things I bring in. And so the best way I can explain it is that I call it a shadow alchemy session, because we're going in and we're finding those pieces that need to be reclaimed to really reawaken your power and your light and all of your beautifulness. But every session is so unique, because it's really tailored around what you're going through in this moment in time, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. And everyone is so different, that they respond to different things. And so I have so many different things in my arsenal, from a lot of shamanic practices to Ayurvedic practices, even modern practices such as hypnosis and mirror work and affirmations. And I have to say, though, my favorite practices are guided energy medicine, which is like a cousin to Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, if you think of a radio, there's like different stations. And so guided energy medicine is like a different frequency, different station than Reiki. But it can go 7 generations back and 7 generations forward, which is something really powerful if you're trying to heal ancestral wounds and ancestral traumas. And my other favorite one is, I mean, I have lots of favorites. I love them all. But it is called, oh gosh, guys, help me here. How did that just disappear out of my mind?
They don't want you to share it.
Right, I guess it's just a little gem here. Core belief work. And so what this does, it's another co-creation where we see, like, what are these beliefs that you're having about yourself right now? If you believe that maybe you're not good enough for something, or that something is really difficult for you, there's generally, or if you feel stuck in a certain situation or experience, there's generally a belief that you're having about that moment in time or that experience that's kind of keeping you there. And so we'll go into a state where we create just this symbiotic relationship between healer and receiver, or I should say facilitator and receiver. And I use my guides to kind of help us through it. And I communicate with your guides as well. And they kind of just start bringing forward different beliefs that you're having. And I can see them as a picture or words. A lot of it depends on what your gifts are. So we all have these really amazing gifts. Some of us see things a little bit more. Some people sense things. Some people hear things. And so they'll show it to me in a way that makes sense for you. And we'll just kind of have this co-creation of, you let me know what you're feeling, what your body's kind of sensing, what's going on. And we keep digging until we find that one core belief that just kind of sends all these shivers and tingles, and just shows that, yes, this is the deepest, earliest piece that needs to be more or less pulled and rewritten and rewired. And so with the help of my guides and your guides, we'll pull that piece very gently, very cautiously, and we examine it. We allow it to be removed from all aspects of our physicality, from our physical body, our spiritual body, all aspects forward and back across all timelines. And then we replace that with a download, something that is uniquely special for you, something that you kind of needed to hear right now, one of those pieces that the words come through and you're just like, oh, yes, this feels so good.
Yep.
And we'll replace that. We'll put that right in there. And it's amazing. Like, after so many sessions, someone even looks different. They feel so much lighter, and they feel like a different person. And even like their face can change just by doing this work. It's remarkable, the things I've experienced and seen, and so humbled and grateful to be a part of these sessions, because I learn a lot too from my clients and from these sessions. And it's so beautiful when two people come together to be open to receive this work. That's when miracles really happen.
Yeah, it's so true. It really does. Also, it requires that willingness from both parties, right? But of course, in this context, particularly what I call the healee, in this situation, the one who is here for dislodging that trapped energy that they're carrying within their chakra system. And yeah, I'm also very passionate and committed to like the intuitive sense that belief is so often the culprit of our dysfunction, because, you know, that's belief exists on the level of mind. And as long as you're living through your mind, you're trapped by it and you're limited, you know, because the mind is a finite, limited resource in that way. And beliefs are interpretations and mental positions as a result. And so they keep you rigid and stuck, and therefore actually not seeing the absolute nature of truth in reality. You're seeing the world as you are, not the way it is. So dissolving belief is so important. I found in my own journey as well. And I really appreciate the nature of how you actually go about this, which is to tap into both guides, yours and who you're working with, and using, you know, a variety of holistic modalities to actually facilitate this healing and the unlearning. It's a really beautiful process. And I think your ability to authentically weave in different practices and modalities to facilitate this healing journey speaks to your authenticity as a provider, because you really have to be an artist to be able to do that, right? You can't make that up. You can't force it. It has to be real. So just wanted to affirm you there as well.
Well, thank you. Those very beautiful words. I really appreciate that. And as you're speaking, that quote came to mind. I forgot who it's by, but it was, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So it just brings back that verification that our minds can control so much of us. And you kind of start realizing that we aren't meant to fully, like, control our mind. We're meant to use it as a tool, as a vessel, because we're still these human beings, right? So we still have this ego, we still have this mind, and it's almost separating yourselves a little bit where you can kind of see it all work together, right? You can see the ego, you can see the mind, you can see your higher self, and kind of see it almost as an orchestration of how they're responding to one another. And I love the fact that, as far as science goes, and this might be a whole new another can, but I hope, this is me just loving a little bit of magic out there, that we'll never fully understand the mind or the spirituality or these other really magical aspects that we keep diving into, because I think it keeps a little bit of wonder. It keeps that faith. And to be human in this really dense realm, it takes a lot of faith just to keep going through all this, right? And so, yes, I guess I forget I was going with that, but it just really speaks to the determination we have as human beings to always try to figure everything out. We don't have to. We don't have to understand everything completely to be able to surrender to our life path, to find our destiny, to commit to our own healing. It's not going to make sense all the time, but you can just keep following the trail of breadcrumbs as it comes forward, because it'll make sense once you get through it. But there's many moments and times where you're just like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I almost feel like that's a rite of passage for everybody on this journey, to have to surrender to the unknown. You did open another can of worms here, but I don't want to spend too much time with it. But I want to say that surrender is so important, right? Surrendering what you think you know so that you can actually accept and step into the unknown. And through that process of surrender, this is the paradox. Through surrendering your knowingness, you could step into the unknown and come back into knowingness from beyond the mind. And that's what wisdom is. That's how wisdom comes through you, and you could start to see clearly.
Yes, beautifully said. And the same thing with, like, releasing control, right? Like, you try so hard to control everything, but everything's a mess. Nothing feels like it's under control. But once you've released the need to control everything and you just let it all go, the more control you feel like you have.
Yep. Yep. It's so funny how truth is. And that's why I love it, because it's so paradoxical, and it's just counterintuitive, and it feels backwards. But ultimately, you know, when you let go of all doubt, when you're able to purify yourself of doubt, let's say that, all that's left is faith. and connectedness to what is the truth. And it's a orgasmic, blissful euphoria of just beingness. Really, really
Oh,
beautiful, powerful stuff. Um, anyway, back to you specifically. I wanted to make sure those tuning in are aware of just the nature of what you offer. You talked about your Shadow Alchemy sessions. Can you just break it down for us in terms of what those look like? Is it one-on-one? Are they one-off? Do you have a duration of time of packages of sessions? Just can you speak a bit to like the structure of your offering?
yeah. So a lot of them are one-on-one. I am working to create a program to kind of do a group setting, because witnessing, experiencing, and just being in a group of healing, it just magnifies the potential and the power in like 10, 20, 30 fold. It's just miraculous what can happen when everyone kind of commits their own personal healing.
Yeah.
It's a lot more one-on-one sessions. And they last anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour, depending on what someone's experiencing. And I am working together to put a package where it's like a discount code, or a little bit less expensive if you buy 5 or 6 at a time. Because let's face it, a lot of times it takes a couple sessions to really start. I mean, we're not in it for the quick fix, right? We're in it for the long haul of things. And so 1 session versus 5 sessions, it's like it compounds, and the healing feeling and the approach you have with the world, it completely changes so rapidly, because they keep progressing on top of each other. It's like when you have a salad. One salad is not going to make you feel the worst or not the best, but if you keep continuing that healthy lifestyle, it's miraculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm excited to see kind of how, like, as you continue to pour your love and heart into this, what kind of becomes made manifest in this 3D world. And I will say I was able to, through our first conversation together, get a taste of what it was like to work with you, because in our normal conversation, we were just kind of pulled into what felt like a taste of a session with you, because guides were speaking to you, and you led me through that beautiful transmission, and just being able to sit with you in that was a really special experience to be able to to have and share with you.
My absolute honor. It was not expected, but when spirit's knocking, you kind of just have to let it in sometimes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, what else would you like to kind of just bring to the table here for people to know about you? I think this is, as you know, an opportunity for the community to get to know you, the world, everything from your story to your offerings to just kind of like, I think perhaps I'm just answering my own question here, if it's okay. What I think could be interesting, if you agree, is to hear a bit about why you do this, right? I know you emit this, I would imagine ties back to your story, but like what is it that's driving you to make this this has become your life? You've such a amazing transformation. What's the motivation for you, to be a provider, to offer these services, to serve in this way?
Like you said, it kind of really ties back to my own personal story, because in the beginning, I was doing it just to heal myself. Like, I just wanted to feel better. I just wanted to, when someone asked me, how are you, to say, I'm doing good, and mean it. Not like the fake smile, or just, dying on the inside, or putting on this fake face in front. And the more I started healing and continuing on my own journey, I started seeing how many people were doing the fake smile. How many people really were responding to past wounds in a very present day. So they're having these quick responses, maybe not being their best self, or just responding really harshly to things. And it all became from just a past wound that they haven't dealt with, that they're afraid to deal with. And the more I started observing this, it was just like, wow, I was seeing it everywhere, even from my family, from just neighbors, from just people on the internet, all the above. In the grocery store, someone having this dramatic moment with a cashier. It's just like, wow, there is so much going on in this world right now. And so many people are dealing with so many things. And a lot of us realize that we don't want to feel this way anymore. We want to be happy. We want to know what it's like to feel everything, including the happiness, including the self-love. We want to know what it feels like to be healed. But it's not always an easy path to follow. And there's really no rule book out there. There's no really any sort of, or a lot of resources that can be found easily, right? And for this healing purpose, there's so many different modalities. It's like, which ones do you choose? Which ones will be right for you? And then I started realizing that, wow, we find this by awakening our own self-healer. And all this chaos in the world that we hear our parents complain about, like the world is doomed and everyone complaining about X, Y, and Z, that everything's going to hell. It's like, okay, well, if that's so, the only way to change that is to heal, right? Because if I heal myself, I change how I put myself out to the world. I put myself out forward as a best version of me. And if everyone starts doing that, start taking care of who they are, then this world can be such a better place. And we're all searching for a way to improve ourselves and the world and to make it less icky. As far as technical terms go, it's super professional, I know, but we're all trying to make an impact of some sort. But the best impact we can have is to heal ourselves. And this drive just kind of came through, and I couldn't shake it because I kept seeing how positive of an impact I was making with working with my clients and how positive they were feeling after having some of these sessions, and they wanted to do better because they were feeling better. So they put their best self out into the world. And some of those moments that you have when you realize that, oh, okay, I can feel better. I can experience bliss, these blissful moments. I can awaken. And these spiritual awakenings that can be very scary sometimes don't have to be nearly as scary if we find the right resources. We allow ourselves to be open to asking for help, which can be really hard sometimes. And just seeing the change that can come from people committing to themselves, that just fires me right up. I get so excited and I just want to like just root for them because it's so beautiful seeing someone just step into their power. And just the smiles on their faces and the impact they have on the world, that we have on the world from just day one when we commit to ourselves. It just gets the ball rolling. And once it starts rolling, gains momentum, it just fills me up.
Yeah. Yeah. I share your passion and zest for healing through direct experience as well. And I think that's really what enlivens someone, right? When your own soul is set aflame, so that you know are able to transmute all of that suffering and pain into bliss and peace that's sustainable. I mean, when that happens to you and you realize that it's possible, all you really want to do is then share that insight with others, with the world, because you realize nothing else really matters, right? Nothing else. We're not actually doing anything else here in terms of our time here as, as temporarily expressed humans in these forms and these bodies, these vehicles. Like, you come into knowingness of what our essential divine purpose, the one ultimate dharma we all share, right? And that all leads us back home. And it really is just, so I share that with you, about being called. And that's kind of the essence of a calling, when you are able to, intuitively be pulled by something it's really, really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And last thing here, if you can just speak a minute to your own transformation of, rising from the depths of your own mind made hell into this not to be religious, but I call it the kingdom of heaven now, right? This dimension of consciousness, this state of higher connectedness. can you talk a bit about your own transformation in terms of your emotional landscape, right? The stability that you've been able to come into, if so, from where you were before. I think that often really is helpful for people who are tuning in to see how you've been able to make changes in your own life.
Yes, such another big topic, and I'll do my best to kind of
Yeah.
condense it down. But before this healing journey, I was just a very angry person. I was angry at life. I was angry at myself. I did mention that I cursed out the universe and I gave it the middle fingers too, middle fingers. And I would find pretty much any opportunity I could just to almost argue with anyone that was happy. I was almost so jealous that they were showing authentic joy that I just got so pissed. It would just make me so mad. It would just trigger me so much, and everything actually became a trigger. I was triggered by scents, by sounds, by voices. It's just life itself was a trigger for me. And it became so overwhelming that I crumbled to the ground. That moment when it flipped off the universe was I was literally lying in fetal position on the ground, just crying and sobbing, and I just didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to die per se. I mean, I had suicidal thoughts when I was younger, and tried to. But at that moment, I didn't want to die. There was something inside me that knew I was meant for more. And now, after going through that cycle of gosh, I don't even know how many dark nights of the soul and those deepest um, bottomless pits you kind of get in.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of those, and finally, you get to this really peaceful place, and you understand that okay, so emotional maturity isn't neglecting the difficult times. It's not saying that I'm not supposed to be scared. It's not saying I'm not supposed to be sad or upset about things. It's allowing ourselves to feel all that there is with compassion and with a response to life instead of automatically reacting to life. So we're human beings. We're still supposed to feel things. We have these dictionaries full of thousands and thousands of words just to try to explain the human experience, to try to explain emotions and things that we create in this lifetime. And the most amazing piece that I can think of as far as emotional growth and spiritual growth is knowing that I am okay just as I am. I don't have to wish anything in my life to be different. Even the worst moments, I accept them for exactly as they came through, exactly as they happened, because I am not defined by my past. I'm not defined by my emotions. I'm not defined by anything that can be explained. We are just these beautiful creatures here to experience all there is to experience. And that includes all the emotions and includes everything this life has to offer. The ones that feel good and the ones that don't feel so good. But it's all just about being human and accepting ourselves as human and embracing our life with tenderness and care and kindness to everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, yes. I was just sitting here and just like letting your words, just absorbing your energy, and just I feel very grateful to have you here with us,
Ditto.
as a partner and on this journey together. Um, and as you're speaking, your story about that what almost feels like this quintessential moment on the path where you crumble to the ground and curse out the universe, and ultimately just where that to me feels like that moment of complete breakdown, right? What the world would call a mental breakdown, but what I know to be of more truth, especially in the spiritualist world, is this ego death, this dissolution of the mind-made self, where you're just it's almost this complete surrender. And that's when you speak to that moment of like not wanting to die but not wanting to live, that I see as this purgatory state of transition of consciousness, which is in many ways that awakening moment. And Eckhart Tolle talks about it as well. And he had that similar experience. I had it as well that I could speak to at a different time. You just spoke to yours, but it's when, you know, you're on the brink of perhaps suicide, right? You're on the last nerve, but you don't want to die. You don't want to give up, but you don't want to live either in this way. And so you're really
Exactly.
you're surrendering in that moment, saying, I'm at the peak of my suffering and I don't know what to do. Show me. And it's in that moment when the divine doors of profound insight can open, and just, you know, you can download, you can be, you're now, the channel is clear because the mind in that moment has collapsed. And so now you have direct access to spirit. And if you can maintain the opening of that channel, man, that's when, you know, your world, your whole life changes. You're just, that nothing remains unaffected by this shift in consciousness. And
Yes.
it feels like that is in many ways so often an experience that humans have on this awakening journey, you know, of the Tole talk to, you talk to, I experience as well. I know so many others, this dark night of the soul, right? Um, and I think it's so beautiful to hear other people's stories about this, because it speaks to the metamorphosis that of caterpillar into butterfly, that, you know, we have the experience we have here as an awakening consciousness. It's it truly is such a miracle and so profound to try to like speak to and conceptualize, because it truly is beyond words. And that's what makes it divine. That's what makes it godly, because anything that is of God is beyond words, beyond interpretation. Um, anyway, you know, when you speak, Lauren, you really, it resonates with me. Like, so I feel compelled to, like, you know, share with you. But
I love it. I love it. I love it all.
yeah, um, I think this is a good place to wrap up for this.
Sure.
I think, you know, we've got a really good sense of you, your session, your work, your offerings, who you are, a flavor of what it's like to spend time with you, to hear more about your story and your journey. And everyone who tuned in, thank you. If you want to learn more about Lauren, you can discover her in our member forum, where there's more about her bio, direct booking links with her offerings, discount codes for Awakenpedians. All that stuff is in there. This video as well will be in there, so you can watch it to see more of Lauren. But thank you, Lauren, for.
Can you close a little prayer? Is that okay?
Sure. Yes, please.
Non-denominational, I promise.
Okay.
But if you would like, I invite you, not required, but you can take a deep breath, maybe place your hand over your heart. As we come back to our bodies, to this moment, and with such deep gratitude, we thank God, Source, Creator, Universe, the Great Spirit, the one with 1,000 names, but still the unnameable one. We thank you for guiding us, for showing us that we have so much strength within ourselves, for allowing us to open these doors of uncertainty, to keep digging, to keep searching for our inner light, knowing that we are on this path of awakening, of self-sovereignty, because we deserve the truth. It is our birthright to have freedom of self, freedom of the mind, freedom of the ego, and to have this beautiful creation of what it is to be in this human body, using it as a resource, a vessel, a tool of divinity. Because that is what we are. We are these beautiful creatures here to experience life as it unfolds before us, one beautiful step at a time, one golden breadcrumb. Each piece that we follow bring us closer and closer to our own unique truth in our own unique way. We thank you for this beautiful moment to share, to hear, to learn, to dive deeper into what it is, what anything is. We are gracious, we are humbled, and we are divine light and love. All my relations, I release you in love and beauty. Aho.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. This was such an enlivening conversation. Really, it was. I just, it just lit up my day and my soul, and
You know,
so
I love this.
to see how this all evolves together over time and along the journey. I know we share this mission together in this space for healing, for love, for transmuting suffering into peace, for alchemization. And I look forward to what's to come. So thank you again, Lauren, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.